There is a story about Neymar that most people miss. It is not the story about the goals. It is not the story about the transfer fees, the tattoos, the Instagram posts, or the World Cup nights. It is a much quieter story, and it happens inside a room nobody filmed. In that room, a piece of paper is slid across a table. On that paper is a number close to $1 million. Not his salary, not his signing bonus, a single, isolated million attached to a single, isolated decision. And the strange thing, the thing worth sitting with tonight, is that the decision was never really about the million. It was about what the million was quietly asking him to agree to. You think, when you hear a story like that it has nothing to do with you. You're not a footballer. You do not sign endorsement deals. Nobody is flying across the world to put a contract in front of you. But here is the part that should make you lean a little closer to the screen. The shape of that decision is the same shape your decisions will take. The zeros are different. The pressure is the same. The trap is the same. And the way out is the same. Tonight, we are going to walk through this kind of decision in second person. You are going to step inside the room. You're going to feel the weight of the paper, hear the voices around the table, and find your way to the only chair in the building that matters, the quiet one, where you sit alone. By the end, you will understand something about your own money that has very little to do with Neymar and very much to do with the next offer, raise, bonus, or opportunity that lands in front of you. Because one of those offers is already on its way. You just don't know it yet. Before any offer arrives, there is a life. There is always a life before the offer arrives. And this is the part most people forget when they tell stories about money. Whether you are a footballer in Paris or a project manager in a mid-sized city, the texture of the before is more similar than you would think. There are mornings. There is coffee. There is a routine you have built without noticing you were building it. You drive the same road to the same places. You buy the same groceries on the same evenings. You have a favorite chair that nobody else in the house is allowed to sit in, even though you have never said so out loud. Your money, at this stage, has a shape you recognize. Something comes in. Something goes out. A small number in the middle grows slowly, the way a tree grows, without making any sound about it. You are not rich in the way magazines define rich. You are stable in a way that lets you sleep through the night. At this level, your decisions are small and your decisions are clean. Do you renew the lease or do you move? Do you keep the car another year or do you trade it in? Do you take the weekend away or do you stay home and finish the book on the nightstand? These are decisions you can make in a single afternoon with a single cup of coffee without calling anyone. You don't realize it yet, but you are living in the last quiet chapter before the offer arrives. For Neymar, the offer came wearing the costume of a sponsorship. For you, it might come wearing the costume of a promotion, an inheritance, a buyout, or a phone call from a recruiter who already knows your name. The wrapping paper is different. The package inside is the same. And when it arrives, the first thing that changes is not the money. The first thing that changes is the number of people in the room. The offer, when it arrives, does not arrive alone. It arrives with a team. There are lawyers, because there are always lawyers. There are agents, because someone has to translate the language of contracts into the language of life. There are accountants, because the number on the paper is never the number that actually reaches you. And there are, in the quieter chairs along the wall, the people who love you, or claim to, or used to. At this level, the math is louder than it has ever been in your life. $1 million in isolation sounds like freedom. But the people in the room are not talking about $1 million. They are talking about what the million is attached to. They are talking about exclusivity clauses. They are talking about appearance obligations. They are talking about the brand you must wear, the city you must live in, the words you cannot say in public, the competitors you cannot be photographed beside, the products you must hold in countries you have never visited. The money, it turns out, is not a payment. The money is rent. Someone is paying to rent a portion of your behavior for a defined number of months, and the contract is the inventory list of which portions and for how long. This is the moment Neymar found himself in. Not once, many times. And it is the moment you will find yourself in, sooner than you think, in your own scale and your own room. You don't realize it yet, but this is the first time in your life you are being asked to price yourself, not your time, not your labor, yourself, the way you stand, the places you go, the friends you are allowed to be seen with, the opinions you are allowed to have out loud. It seems harmless because the number is so large. It seems harmless because everyone in the room is smiling. It seems harmless because nobody is asking you to do anything dramatic. Just sign, just initial, just nod. But underneath the routine of the meeting, a quiet arithmetic has begun. For every zero on the page, a small door in your future is being asked to close, and the doors are not labeled. Here is what nobody tells you about decisions that involve $1 million. The obvious answer is always yes. Yes is what your agent wants. Yes is what your family expects. Yes is what the people in the room, the people who flew across continents to sit at this table, have already assumed before you walked in. Yes is what your younger self would scream at you through the years if he could, the younger self who counted change at a kitchen table, who waited for a paycheck that took too long, who could not imagine a number this large attached to his own name. At this level, the pressure is not coming from the money. The pressure is coming from the assumption that, of course, you will take it. Why wouldn't you? Who turns down $1 million? What kind of person looks at a number like that and asks a follow-up question? You begin to feel something you have not felt in a long time, a small private tightening in your chest. Not panic, something quieter. The first faint awareness that the easy answer and the right answer have walked into different rooms, and you are the only one who has noticed. Here's what changes. You stop hearing the room the way you used to hear it. The voices around the table begin to sound slightly underwater. You hear the words, but you also hear the shape underneath the words. You hear which voices are excited for you and which voices are excited for themselves. You hear which voices have your name in their mouth and which voices have your name in their calculations. At this level, you don't realize it yet, but you have begun to do the most expensive thing a person with money can ever do. You have begun to think for yourself in a room full of people who are paid to think on your behalf. And once you begin to think for yourself, the second thing happens. You begin to see the price tag underneath the price tag. Every offer has a price, and the price is rarely written in the same currency as the offer. In a small business, the offer might be a big client whose contract requires you to drop 3 smaller clients you actually like. In a corporate career, the offer might be a promotion that requires a move to a city your partner has quietly never wanted to live in. In an athlete's life, the offer might be a sponsorship that requires you to be photographed in clothes you would never choose, in places you would never go, holding products you would never use, on weekends you would otherwise have spent with your child. At this level, the math becomes visible in a way it was not visible before. $1 million sounds like more money than a person can spend in a year until you begin to subtract. Subtract the taxes. Subtract the percentage that goes to the agent. Subtract the percentage that goes to the management company. Subtract the cost of the lifestyle the contract quietly requires, the travel, the wardrobe, the appearances, the team of people who now exist because the contract exists. Subtract the opportunities you must say no to in order to say yes to this one. Subtract the energy, subtract the years, and then underneath all of those subtractions, subtract the thing nobody puts on a spreadsheet. Subtract the version of you that you would have become if you had said no. That version does not appear on any balance sheet. That version does not send you invoices. That version simply stops existing the moment the pen touches the page, and you spend the rest of your life never quite knowing what he was going to do with the years you traded away. It seems harmless, but at this level, a decision about money has quietly become a decision about identity. And identity, unlike money, does not come with a refund clause. Eventually, in every decision like this, there is a moment when you have to leave the loud room and find the quiet one. In the loud room, everyone has an opinion. In the quiet room, only you do. You walk down a hallway, you close a door, you sit somewhere, maybe a balcony, maybe a hotel bathroom, maybe the passenger seat of a car parked in a garage where nobody can see you. You put your phone face down. You stop performing for the people who flew in to watch you decide. At this level, the question stops being how much. The question becomes what kind of life? And the question after that becomes whose life? Whose calendar will the next 10 years belong to? Whose phone calls will you have to answer at midnight? Whose disappointment will you have to manage if you say no? Whose approval are you actually chasing when you say yes? Here's what changes in the quiet room. You begin to do something that wealthy people are almost never trained to do. You begin to ask yourself what you would do if the money were not the headline of the decision. If you stripped the million off the top of the page and just read the rest of the contract, would you still sign it? Would you agree to those clauses, that schedule, that loss of freedom, that narrowing of your own life for free? If the answer is no, if the only reason you would sign is the number at the top, then you are not being offered $1 million. You are being offered $1 million to do something you would not otherwise choose. And those are very different transactions, even though they look identical on the page. You don't realize it yet, but this is the question that separates the people who get rich from the people who stay free. And occasionally, very occasionally, the people who manage to do both. This is the moment we came here to see. You walk back into the loud room. The coffee has gotten cold. The lawyers are still smiling, but the smiles are thinner now because you have been gone a long time, and time in rooms like this is the most expensive substance there is. You sit down, you pick up the pen, and you do one of two things. You either sign, knowing exactly what you are signing, not just the money, but the clauses, the years, the version of yourself you are agreeing to become, and the version of yourself you are agreeing to retire. You sign with your eyes open. You sign because you have weighed it honestly, and the trade is one you are willing to make, and you can name out loud what you are giving up in exchange for what you are receiving. Or you set the pen down, quietly, without performance, and you say the sentence that almost nobody in a room like this is brave enough to say. Not this one, not on these terms. Both of these are correct answers. That is the part nobody explains. The decision is not between yes and no. The decision is between a conscious yes and an unconscious yes, between a clear no and a fearful no. The dollar amount is the same in all four versions. The life that follows is not. This is the decision Neymar could not ignore, and it is the decision the world rarely sees a man like him make in real time. The headlines focus on the number. The interesting part, the part worth sitting with tonight, is that the decision was never really about the number. It was about what the number was attached to, who it was attached to, and what kind of next chapter it would buy or quietly sell. At this level, the heaviest thing in the room is not the contract. The heaviest thing in the room is the question of whether you are choosing the offer or whether the offer is choosing you. Here is what nobody tells you about decisions like this. Whether the number on your paper is 1 million or 10,000 or 200, you will face one. Maybe not in a glass conference room, maybe in an email, maybe in a phone call from a recruiter, maybe in a quiet conversation with a parent about an inheritance, maybe in an evening with your partner about whether to take the higher paying job in the city neither of you wants to live in. The decision will not always announce itself, but it will arrive. When it does, there are a few quiet practices that protect you. The first is to separate the number from the conditions. Write the number on one piece of paper. Write the conditions on another. Read the conditions without looking at the number. Would you accept those conditions for free? If the answer is no, then you are not being paid for the work. You are being paid for the surrender, and surrender is something only you can price. The second is to find your quiet room, not metaphorically, literally, a balcony, a walk, a drive, a bathroom with the door closed. Every important financial decision deserves one conversation that happens with nobody else in the room, not even the people who love you, especially not the people who are paid to advise you. The quiet room is where you find out what you actually think, instead of what you have been told to think by the people around the table. The third is to remember that no is a financial instrument. It is not the absence of a decision. It is one of the most powerful decisions a person with options can make. Every no preserves the room for a later yes that fits better. Every no keeps a door open that the yes would have closed forever. The wealthiest people in the world are not the ones who said yes the most. They are the ones who said no to the right things, early enough that the no still cost them something. And the fourth, the one that takes the longest to learn, is that the goal is not to maximize the number on the paper. The goal is to maximize the number of mornings over the rest of your life, where you wake up and recognize the person whose calendar you are about to live inside. That number does not appear on any contract, but it is the only number in the end that compounds into a life worth having. Here's what changes when you start making decisions this way. The offers do not stop arriving. They keep arriving, sometimes larger, sometimes more flattering, sometimes more urgent. But you stop arriving at them the same way. You stop walking into the loud room as someone who needs the offer. You start walking in as someone who is curious about the offer. And curiosity in a room full of people who assumed you would say yes is the most expensive currency you can carry. One decision at a time, you become the kind of person who can hear a number without being moved by it. Not because the number is small, because you are no longer small in front of it. The pen will still be there. The paper will still be there. The room will still smell like cold coffee and quiet ambition. But you will no longer mistake the offer for the answer. You will know that the answer lives somewhere behind the offer, in a quieter room, in a quieter voice, in the part of you that was there before the contract arrived and will still be there long after the contract expires. That is the decision Neymar could not ignore. And one day, in your own scale, in your own room, in your own life, it will be the decision you cannot ignore either. When it arrives, you will already know what to do. You will separate the number from the conditions. You will find the quiet room. You will remember that no is an instrument, not a failure. And you will choose the version of your life you actually want to wake up inside. The offer will close. The room will empty. And you will walk out into the rest of your years carrying the only thing that was ever truly yours to carry, the freedom to have chosen.